Mongolia is a land of animal husbandry. There are a lot of opportunities to do business using animal raw materials. Meat is the most abundant raw material. Meat and meat products are an inseparable part of the daily diet of Mongolians. Processing and making a final product out of meat can not only extend the time of use of the meat, but also adds value and thus maximizes revenues for producers. Today, small and medium-sized local producers, rural cooperatives, and small factories do not possess proper meat processing technology, which results in lost opportunities and potential profits. We would like to introduce a meat drying or jerky production technology to the meat processors. This new product will help the processors to expand their markets and extend their product line. All the necessary conditions exist in Mongolia to produce jerky, and this product is expected to have a huge demand in the domestic market. Meat preparation. First, bones are removed from the selected meat. Meat around a backbone and outer parts of an animal have the best quality and belong to the first and second grades. Meat around the hips belongs to the third grade and should be selected for making jerky. Then, the meat is trimmed of fat and connective tissues. These removed materials are used for making sausages and borts, traditional Mongolian dried meat, so nothing is wasted. The meat should not contain any fat because fat never dries and becomes rancid, thus spoiling the taste of the meat. Hip meat consists of different parts and connections between the parts need to be broken. After this process, the meat is thinly sliced with grain. The meat cuts should be thin, not thick. When packaging, meat can be of any size. It takes a long time to cut meat manually. For industrial cutting, the meat needs to have a proper shape and to be frozen. It is then sliced by a special machine. You just saw how the meat is sliced by a machine. Meat seasoning. Thinly sliced meat is spread out on a special tray. There are 5 to 7 main flavors used for marinating the meat. But you can choose whether you want to use garlic with pepper, hot pepper, or other spices. The seasoning is evenly sprayed on the meat. In approximately 5 to 6 minutes, the meat is turned over on the tray and the seasoning is applied again. You shouldn't leave the meat without applying a seasoning. This process needs to be done in a precise and accurate manner. It takes 2 persons to marinate large quantities of meat, for example 50 kilograms. One person sprays seasoning and the other one turns over the meat. After flavoring is finished, the meat should be squeezed to allow it to absorb the flavor. The flavored meat is packaged and stored in the freezer. Cooling it in a freezer for a maximum of 3 days will produce the best taste. These 3 days are about a right time to have a meat fully absorb a flavor. The minimum time for flavoring jerky is no less than 12 hours. Less than 12 hours will not produce the right flavor and taste. Meat drying technology. There are several technologies for drying meat. Today we will see how to dry meat in the oven. Drying meat means reducing moisture content down to 5%. In other words, if a total moisture content of a meat is 100%, removing 95% of this moisture is called a drying process. Dried meat can preserve its taste and qualities for a long time. Also, size and weight is reduced, which makes it easier to transport. Drying of meat. Marinated meat is placed in the oven at 65 degrees. The temperature is then slowly risen up to 145 to 165 degrees Celsius. The moisture is steadily removed so all flavor stays in the meat. During the drying process, the moisture can be measured at certain intervals. If the level of moisture is too high, it means that the meat is not dried up completely. Meat that is not completely dried can easily lose its taste and qualities, so it's important to continue the drying process. If 95% of all the moisture is gone, then drying can stop. Smoking and drying equipment is used in factories. For instance, it takes 4 to 5 hours for a smoking machine to make a jerky. If producers are willing to supply jerky on the market, there are many entities that are able to provide smoking and drying equipment. You can contact them and order equipment that best suits your needs. Meat packaging. Before jerky is packaged, it needs to take approximately 1 hour to cool down. Then it is cut in all kinds of shapes, including triangles and rectangles. It could also be packaged in its original shape. The jerky is placed horizontally and vacuum packed without any air. This methodology helps to preserve its quality. If at least a tiny amount of air stays in the package, risks of product damage increase dramatically. Vacuum packaging is impossible to do manually, so it is done with special equipment. Extra attention must be paid on sealing and packaging processes because of the high risks of improper sealing. When packaging, think about which size and weight of jerky is in high demand. Usually jerky is sold in 50 gram, 100 gram or 200 gram packages. Jerky can be stored in normal or below normal temperatures in dry conditions. It's strictly forbidden to package incompletely dried jerky. The labels must contain all necessary information, such as the name of the product, use and storage instructions, weight, content, and other details. Consumption of jerky. Fresh jerky needs to be cooled down to room temperatures for about 5 to 10 minutes before it can be consumed. The jerky can be cut in different shapes suitable for you. It could also be served along with other meal and beverages like beer and wine. Selection of meat. The best meat for jerky is horse, beef, and mutton rounds. This means that Mongolia has all opportunities to produce jerky. On the other hand, Mongolians mainly consume meat of these three animals. There are many advantages of producing jerky in rural areas. An abundance of meat. Meat is relatively cheap. The availability of raw materials used for seasoning. Easy access to central markets. Meat damaged in an environment without electricity can be easily replaced. Jerky can be easily transported. Jerky can be consumed every day, during trips, with all kinds of food. Producers often do not see the difference between the jerky and borts. These products are very different in terms of production technology. In this training, we provided you with tips on how to produce jerky. You can all produce jerky with this technology. Rural meat producers and traders need trainings on meat grading, production of jerky, and other value-added products. They need support to develop these kinds of businesses. There is a great need for technical training in consultancies organized by foreign and domestic consultants. This training was also a response to such a demand.